So The Killing Floor. This is book 1 in the Jack Reacher series by Lee Child. So The Killing Floor. So I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like as much, and going to kind of rank some of the characters, and I'm going to rank the book overall in the series. So if you didn't know, this is the one that they used for season 1 on Amazon of the Reacher series. So this book is what that's based on. So if you want to kind of compare and contrast, which will do a little bit during this video. So what do I like about this book? Well, being the first book in the series, you kind of get to know Jack Reacher for the first time. So that's kind of cool. It has some backstory, but there's a lot more backstory in some of the other books, so it's not like it tells you the whole backstory, but you do get kind of the first characterization of him as a character. I like that there's a pretty good mystery with a lot of good mystery components about solving a crime and that sort of thing. I like that some of the characters are pretty cool, like the love interest and kind of the main guy that helps Reacher with the investigation locally in the town where they're at. So I like all those things. I also liked that it was what the Amazon series was based on because I was able to compare and contrast, and in some ways that made it more fun to read the book because I had already watched the show before I read this book. So I liked all those things. I also liked the local kind of rural environment that they were in. I thought that was pretty cool. One difference between the show and the book is that they're in a different state. I think they're in Georgia in the book and Alabama in the series, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can leave a comment. So what, if anything, did I not like as much about this book? Well, or the show, kind of because they're similar. It's a little gory. It's not just action scenes because it has some good action scenes, so that's a plus. And by the way, one more good thing is Reacher does a really good job of deducting and solving things and figuring out what people are thinking and stuff like that. But on a related note to the action aspect, there's some gore in terms of like the crime scenes and stuff like that that's a little over the top. And so if you don't like, just gruesome descriptions and things like that, this may not be your cup of tea. So that so that wasn't my favorite part of it by any means. So that was something to be aware of. What else would I say I didn't like as much? I think the plot is pretty good and the mystery is pretty good and it's kind of fun to put those pieces together, but there's a few things about it that maybe are a little far-fetched or a little too in the weeds about how the criminals are doing what they're doing or whatever. You could argue that either way, but I think overall it's a pretty cool plot. It just might go a little too far with a couple aspects of it. So what about the characters? Well, I think the love interest in this one is pretty cool. Roscoe, the police officer that he kind of works with. And so, I would rank her pretty highly among the Reacher love interests. And where would I rank this book in the list of all of the Reacher books? Well, I would have to say that it's not number 1, but it's close to the top. So far, my favorite Reacher book is One Shot, which is actually the book that the first movie was based on with Tom Cruise. But this is probably number 2 or maybe number 3. I would say it's number 2 right now. But I also really like Tripwire, and there's a few others that I really like. But most of them I would rank below this one because I think this one's quite good and does a good job of establishing the character, has a really good mystery, has some other really good side characters, and some good action scenes. A few drawbacks, like I mentioned, with the excessive gore in this one, but overall, a really cool book. So I would recommend checking it out unless you're turned off by the excessive gore. And I think it's really fun to compare and contrast with the TV series. So worth checking out overall if you're one of those types.